Scenario, I get to see them both. In the other scenario, I get to be at the Yankees game but completely miss the Rangers. I hate that. I'm sure there's a way I could watch it on my phone or something. Somebody in chat will probably tell me.
I like this beat, but
What's happening, Awesemo baseball fans? Terry McBride here on a kind of warm, kind of ugly Saturday afternoon here in the New York metro area. I'm here with my pal Gundacker. We're going to talk through these MLB DFS slates. We've got a weird split up Saturday, Gun. We were just talking about it behind the scenes here, but before we dive into all that mess, how you doing, pal?
Yeah, we good. Well, it's 101 degrees, mostly sunny with the pollen warning in effect. So we got blacked out windows. We got the AC cranking. I got these fans going, bro. They can have that. Not today, Satan. Not today.
I tell you, I take back everything I said. It is downright cool here by comparison. So yeah, I think it's just my AC isn't exactly cranking the right way for me. Might need a new one, but yeah, it's not comfy in here today. But hey, we're brought to you by Awesemo. We're brought to you by Odd Shopper today, and we are going to talk through these slates of baseball. It's a weird split between FanDuel and DraftKings today, guys. We've got a 4:05 start on FanDuel. They're going to cover the games that go through the 7:15 starts. DK is running an early slate with a main slate prize pool on the top contest, $50K to first. So it seemed like their main slate, but they're not calling it their main slate. So that one's going to cover the 4 o'clock games, but not the 7 o'clock games. The 7 o'clock games, they're lumping into a 5-game slate that rolls with the later games that they're calling their main slate, but including a smaller prize pool on. So that's going to be fun to keep tabs on as we go through this slate. Gun, as we start off here, we're going to kind of look at it. We'll go through the afternoon games, talk about the main FanDuel slate and the early DK slate. As we look at that one, any overarching thoughts as far as the slate goes in the nature of anything call out weather-wise, anything like that?
Which slate is this now that you're asking?
the FanDuel main slate, the ones that start at 4 o'clock, that block of games.
Yeah, I mean, that's a pretty, I'm not angry at the slate size. It's just so weird. I mean, I don't know. I guess it's just because all the sites are different and it just makes our job hard. But no, I mean, it's going to end early. This would have been a nice slate last night. You can go watch some basketball after it's all said and done. for the most part, we get we got a couple of high octane offenses on the bump. We got a couple of ace-like potential guys like Kevin Gossman, stuff like that. So we got a couple ways to play this slate. So at least the options are there. It's just unfortunate how weirdly, I don't know, scheduled it is.
Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be a interesting one to talk through, a little bit of a mess to keep tabs on, but we'll do our best, guys. Patrick Rose in the chat asked, if I'm playing the FanDuel main slate, who's starting for the Padres, Martinez or Gore? Why is Cruncher suggesting Gore if Martinez is starting? There's a doubleheader in that contest, in that series today. So the afternoon game on that FanDuel main slate is Ryan Feltner for the Rockies and Nick Martinez for the Padres. You have to, in all cases, guys, manually curate your pool, your player pools for any optimizer that you're using. I don't care if it's Cruncher, Roto Grinders, Roto QL, or any of these other ones. You have to be in there manually making sure that the correct players are selected for your pools. So it's always worth checking, but especially when there's double headers, they become kind of messy. A lot of the time, especially in FC, you'll see all 4 pitchers listed. So you've got to take the other guys out for whichever slate you're playing. So that's an important detail. Good calling that out, Patrick Rose. We appreciate it. Gun, let's dive into the first game. Oh, guys, make sure you hit the like, the subscribe. I'm so bad at the business end of this. Make sure you hit the like, the subscribe. We appreciate that. We've got free tools and content up on the site today. That's main slate ownership projections for MLB and MMA fighter rankings. We've got a big MMA slate, MMA live before lock coming up later on after this one. We'll take care of another piece of business so that we don't forget it in the meantime. We've got, you guys are here for Awesemo MLB, right? So you know that MLB is something that we cover in depth, in detail. We've got a ton of great tools and content for it. If you're only interested in the MLB package, $18.95 a week gets you in the door. Projections, ownership, the top pitchers, the top stacks, all the various tools, top hitters tool, lots of different pieces in there. But if you're playing anything else, if you're going to just dabble in the end of the NBA season, the MMA slate that's coming up tonight, NASCAR races that we've got tomorrow, anything else, one other sport, jump onto the Platinum plan, especially while we're running these promos. 50% off your first month of Awesemo Plus Platinum, which includes everything that we cover for every sport, every tool. 50% off with promo code MLB Live. That's MLB Live, all in caps, gets you 50% off. Fantasy Cruncher is always a paid add-on. It's not included in the discount. Stop guessing, start winning. Join Awesemo Plus today. Gun, we just cleared the road of business for a long ways here. Let's jump into this ridiculous slate. We'll start with the Diamondbacks against the Phillies. We've got, we were just talking about this one behind the scenes. Mad Bum on the hill for the D-backs going up against the suddenly smoking hot Phillies. They fired their manager. Now they can't lose a game. They're scoring 8 runs a game. Mike Awesemo's pounding his chest behind the scenes, behind the virtual glass. Talk to me about this one. Do we have any love for Mad Bum, or are we looking more at Zach Wheeler on the mound for the Phils?
Yeah, way more looking at Zach Wheeler, man. Me and Mad Bum are mortal enemies for life. Every 5 days, it's on site, and usually he wins. But no, I'm way more on Zach Wheeler here. He's definitely one of those ace-like outcomes I think that I was alluding to earlier with guys like him, Gossman on the slate. So he's certainly going to be a target of mine. The D-backs striking out 1-4 on the season against righties. It is a park boost all overall for offense here. But I'm going to hope that plays more to the Philly stack side than the D-backs stack side, because I like the Philly stack as well. But no, Zach Wheeler, yes. Mad Bum, no.
All right, I think that one makes a ton of sense there. That's kind of how I was seeing it as well. Everybody knows I'll dabble with Mad Bum here and there, but not against this Phillies offense. Are we going to Philly stacks? It looks like at least the top end of the lineup is drawing a lot of attention on both sides. Bottom half kind of thin, though, around like JT Realmuto, Alec Bohm, maybe some Bryson Stott down bottom. He's been a little bit frisky in their recent stretch. Any love for the bottom end of the Phillies? And then just how much are we getting to the top end of the Phillies lineup?
I mean... it's not fun, but I mean, you could justify just because of how cheap they are. Maybe you wrap around, get lucky. But 1 through 6, Alec Bohm being at the bottom of that group is probably like rightfully so my favorite here. And just overall, other than Bryce Harper, it's a pretty economically, fiscally sound stack to get to. So I would imagine that's going to garner a lot of attention. But man, Mad Bum's $1.25 whip, 4.46 expected ERA, and his 1.7 home run per 9 to righties should play pretty well for a guy like Rhys Hoskins. I think that guy's projected as one of my best home run predictions of the day.
Yep, same. He was my pick from the team when I do my team by team picks. Articles up on the site, guys. If you want to go find it, somebody will drop a link to it in the chat, I'm sure, for us. But yeah, Hoskins, all four of the top four hitters are well above average in my home run model in this spot for the Phillies here. So if you can figure out ways to put that together with a little bit of differentiation, especially on FanDuel, I mean, Harper only pulling 8.4%, Schwarber up top 9.1%. I'll take either one of those guys against kind of a flat lefty. If it was an ace caliber lefty, I'd be a little concerned. But against Mad Bum here, I think you can take shots there. What about the Diamondbacks on the other side? We talked about it a lot. They've been kind of frisky for power against right-handed pitching, but Wheeler is so good at limiting power. 0.84% home run rate this year, 1.88% last year, a 32.7% hard hit this year, 28.5 last year, minuscule barrel rates, 4.5, 4.6, 4.7 last 2 years. Are you taking shots with the Diamondbacks at no ownership and low costs against Wheeler here?
Yeah, I think that last end is the reason why my answer would be yes, strictly in mass entry tournaments. So looks like Wheeler could be pushing 50% own on DK. Yeah. Like I said, this is one of the most plus parks on the slate for hitting. So just kind of hoping for it. Hey, half the field might, Garrett Cole the other night against the Twins, half the field just might collapse if he has an off night and D-backs take advantage of Citizens Bank Park. So I think that you don't have to give up much equity to be 5 times the field. And it's just the right process, I think, to have some hedge. Even, like I plan to be pretty invested in Wheeler. Just the right process to have some hedge against that type of ownership.
Yeah. Any favorite bats to call out of that lineup? I mean, I assume we're both looking at Dalton Varsho up at the top there, 9 home runs on the season, catcher eligibility, outfield and catcher on FanDuel. Very cheap. Who else in that lineup do you like?
Yeah, Christian Walker. He's like the quietest. What does he got? Like 15, 16 homers, something like that.
15,
like,
yeah.
Yeah, no one's paying attention to him. He's a thing. So yeah, those two specifically, like I said, nothing individually metric wise matches up like great against Wheeler. You're just kind of betting on talent. I think Varsho, Walker are probably the top 2 options for me, and then you just kind of mix and match around them.
Makes sense. Looks like the Orioles lineup just dropped, so I'm just grabbing that while you were talking there. Anything to close out this game, or should we just jump to the next one?
I cannot wait for 9 warning track flyouts and Mad Bum laughs in my dreams tonight.
Well, I feel like that might happen to me here against Pat Corbin with all the Brewers that are popping up in my lineups here today. So talk to me about this Brewers versus Nationals game. Brewers coming to town with Eric Lauer on the mound. I think I want to get to some shares of Lauer at not very much ownership at all. Nationals don't strike out that much, but they also don't do anything else against lefties. So I'm not really concerned about power or run creation coming back against them. And I'm kind of interested in that at no ownership, that 27% strikeout rate that he's got. Am I crazy for going to Lauer here? I assume we're both in agreement that we don't really want any shares of Pat Corbin here, but if you've got a different take on that one, let me know.
No, I definitely will not be playing Patrick Corbin probably ever again, but definitely not tonight. Yeah, I mean, Lauer is definitely intriguing. I guess it's kind of like I just touched the stove last night, got burned. I feel like old boy gave up like 15 hits last night, man. The Nationals, as little power as they project, they're also pretty pesky at getting for strikeouts. Only Riley Adams in this version of this lineup really have a over 20% K rate against lefties since the beginning of last year. So it's a tough line to get strikeouts. But like you said, if we're trying to get a little bit different at pitcher, I think there's going to be a lot of coagulation with Wheeler and Gossman. Lauer is enough. At 4% owned versus a 15% chance of being a top 2 pitcher on DK. Mathematically, he makes way too much sense to stay out on if you are mass entering. So I would agree with that. But it's not a comfort click. It's not I like the matchup click. It's just the math kind of says, hey, we shouldn't be out on Lauer when we're getting this opportunity at this ownership, because he does have that range of outcomes to give us a solid 6-7 with strikeout per inning, and probably scoops the win against Mr. Corbin with a minus 157 money line.
Yeah, so let's talk about that, because I'm definitely seeing a lot of Brewers popping up in these lineup builds that I'm running. The top end super highly owned, everybody in the high teens, mid 20s. Bottom end kind of falls off. Rowdy Tellez only 6.5, 3.3 across sites. Caratini, Kane, Matthias at the bottom of the lineup, not exactly inspiring. What are you doing with these Brewers? Because I'm seeing them with very nice power numbers and a good opportunity here against Corbin.
Yeah, we talked about our magic numbers: Adames, McCutchen, Renfroe, Urias, 2 through 5. That lane all has the magic number in my power model. So that would be my favorite to get to. And then getting around them, Corbin does give up a 350 plus average so far this year to lefties with just an 11% K rate. Hey man, that's put the ball in play, take your shot on Yelich and Rowdy Tellez. So it just makes a ton of sense to get to these Brewers bats.
Yeah, absolutely. Lead off Christian Yelich, for all his struggles, still pulling a 50.3% hard hit and an 11% barrel rate now. So, I mean, that barrel rate is back up toward where he was for the MVP season. He's going to come around. It seemed like it was percolating during, May, and it seems like it cooled off a little bit, but at the top of the lineup, I'll definitely take shots there. It's difficult to get to them at low ownership, but you can mix and match them. There's enough options on this slate. Any nationals for you before we move on? Any Nats bets?
Yeah, a couple individual bets. Lane Thomas is a pretty interesting click. It's pretty cheap on both sides, 900 or 911 OPS to lefty since the beginning of last year. Juan Soto's always in the mix, and then Nelly, I'm like a bird. Cruz at 2,900 on FanDuel. That's a really nice price
against the lefty.
To.
Can you imagine a couple years ago getting Nelson Cruz against a lefty at 2,900?
He would have
been 100% on.
Yeah, you'd enter the contest and it would come preloaded with Nelson Cruz there.
Right. All right, let's keep the pace here and we'll jump out of this one. Oakland Athletics, the lousy Oakland Athletics with their best overall player on the mound, Frankie Montas, taking it on the stingy Guardians, who are pretty good against right-handed pitching. Guardians answering back with Zach Plesac, who typically kind of an uninspiring pitcher, not a guy I ever really consider, but going up against this Athletics lineup, is there anything on the bone for Plesac? And then how much of Montas you're willing to play here against a decent Guardians team?
And I've played some average, so way less than average pitchers against the Athletics this year and gotten away with it. I think you could justify 6,500 walking away with double digits in your SP2. But I also think that, this might be one of those slates where you get a couple of 25 pluses out of your pitch, out of a couple of pitchers tonight. So I'm kind of going to build a little top heavy there. But I do think on DK, you get there a little bit in 150. On FanDuel, I probably wouldn't force the issue. Montes I think it's the harder decision because we know he's got the talent, but the matchup surely isn't a great one. More so for strikeouts. Jimenez, Owen Miller, and Luke Malley have a 20+% carry. Everybody else is really, really scrappy. So the upside might be a little harder to realize. But because of that, the field's kind of there. Or Fields kind of reacted to that as well. And we're getting a 14% chance of him being a top 2 pitcher on DK with just an 8.5% ownership. So much like Eric Lauer, where the matchup doesn't necessarily breed confidence, it's still giving you a mathematical positive leverage of opportunity to attack. So I think we get there, but it's a math decision more than a comfort decision here.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think the same thing, just based on how the numbers of the slate look, we kind of do want to grab a few additional shares of Montas. In the grand scheme of things, you're playing with something that may not work out all that many times, but when it does, especially, FanDuel, you're dealing with 1.6% of the field, maybe 2% of the field on him, you're gaining a nice advantage. And Frankie Montas is a talented guy, 27.9% strikeout rate for the season. But like you said, the Guardians, their number is 15% strikeout rate against right-handed pitching for the active roster this season. That's the best mark against either hand in all of baseball. So playing with a little fire there going to Montas. What about the lineups on either side? We both don't like this Athletics lineup. We're both at least sort of, poking at Zach Plesac here. Would you draw any shares of Athletics going against him if you add him into your pool? And then if you're not rostering any Plesac, would you go to any Athletics, or is it just like a pure hedge play?
The guy that's drawing the best number for me on the Athletic side would be Seth Brown. Almost a 250 ISO since beginning of last year against righties. I'm getting a decent power number. And the main issue with him is a near 30% K rate. Well, Plesac is going to neutralize that with his 20% K rate to righties and a 9% overall swing and strike rate. So more opportunity for Brown to put the ball in play, and Progressive's going to play a little bit more friendly than Oakland. So if I had to isolate one guy, it's going to be Mr. Brown, but I don't have a lot of enthusiasm to get to a full stack here.
Yeah, I think I'm with you on that one. I had a couple A's pop up for me last night, and in one else, Brown was one of them. Highest home run rate in my model as well on the site for the A's. So yeah, I think I would do the same. Maybe grab someone else, maybe some of him, maybe some of Ramon Laureano. Not very many of these other guys. What about the Guardians on the other side, going up against a good pitcher, but keep the ball in play like crazy? They can, sequence you to death. They've got a few good power bats. We I think both like Oscar Gonzalez. Everybody knows about Jose Ramirez in the middle. Josh Naylor can go deep on the righty. But what about these other guys like the Rosarios, the Jimenezes of the world, Owen Miller, Stephen Kwans?
Yeah, those guys are pretty expendable. The Quan makes a little bit more sense, a lot scrappier, good OBP potential, scoop up maybe a couple runs in front of those more trendy Guardians. The bottom guys like Owen Miller, I'm not that enthralled with. Just not a ton of power, not a lot of guys behind him that likely drive him in. So I'd rather get the guys in front of J-Ram and Naylor. But my forefront interest would be in J-Ram and Josh Naylor and Oscar Gonzalez.
Yeah, I think same thing for me here. Those are kind of my focused hitters there. And then if I end up with a few shares of Andres Jimenez, who's certainly been very good this season, I'm happy to take those. Ahmed Rosario, same thing. I still believe in his talent, his home run ability, and his stolen base talent. Anything else here, or should we hop over to the Orioles against the Royals?
No, I think we covered it.
Sounds good. Do you have any interest in either Tyler Wells going against the Royals or Daniel Lynch coming back to lefty for pretty cheap on DK against this Orioles lineup that is kind of frisky against left-handed pitching, at least in theory?
No, I think the numbers say that Wells should start realizing a little bit more strikeouts, but I'm not going to play with that on this slate. So I'll probably sit this one out for pitching.
Yeah, I think same thing. I don't really need to go to Lynch. I wouldn't tell anybody they were necessarily making a mistake at 5,400. He's 7% owned. That feels about right. But if you wanted to grab a few shares, it's fine. But I do expect this Orioles lineup. They were much, much better against lefties last year. I do expect a big turnaround for them. And we've seen it a little bit if you look at the splits against lefties away from their home park, where those changes are most impactful in that home park. So I think the numbers are there to support that. With that said, since we're not rostering pitchers, are we going here for bats? I'll take a couple spot shots at like Sal and MJ in the Royals lineup, but otherwise I don't love that one. I am a little bit more enthused about the Orioles. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, if I have no interest in pitching, I think naturally I just got to be there on offense. 90 degrees out there in Kaufman might help out with some of that park suppression. And then the Orioles saved all their runs for tonight, man. I was in on them against Heasley last night, and it was not optimal. So hopefully tonight they got some catching up to do. And yeah, like you said, Lynch is definitely going to hopefully open up some of our more favorite splits. Would have liked to see Santander in the lineup. He's not, but Mancini, Hayes, Mountcastle, Rustman, even though Rustman's big league numbers are still haven't caught up to what his top prospect status said that he should be, kind of expect that to start coming sooner than later. And I think Lynch is certainly a exploitable spot. So yeah, I'm in on the Royals and the Orioles. And the Royals, man, it's like Salvi and Melendez, man. They're becoming a perfect FanDuel stack because it's hard to choose between them on DK every night.
Yeah, that's a great little thing that you can do with lineups over there with the dual catcher positioning. And yeah, that's a fun little combo to play. I've gotten to MJ a decent amount of the time when he's gone off. So I've been enjoying that one. I just don't love the rest of that Royals lineup. There's a lot of like just, slap hit, get on base, a little bit of speed. They can sequence. They can definitely put runs on the board through that. And then when they get that power. So are you going to any of the Royals stack? Like, would you full stack this team against Wells here?
I probably don't onslaught, but a couple 2-3s as subsets for sure.
So if you're going to Sal and MJ in a FanDuel lineup, let's say, are you going to Benintendi? Is it more Merrifield? Is it somebody behind those guys? Who are we looking for? Like, we're looking for the guy they're driving in when they hit the home run up top at the top in a 3-man?
Yeah, it's probably Merrifield or Benintendi.
Yeah, I would think so too. Both those guys great at putting the ball in play, minor power, some speed. So yeah, I think those guys make the most sense there for me as well. Let's jump over to the Blue Jays against the Tigers. You mentioned the pitcher for the Blue Jays, Kevin Gausman. Great matchup here against the Tigers. I don't really think he's getting enough ownership, only 7.3% on FanDuel. I get that he's expensive, but who cares? It's Kevin Gausman. He's going up against the Tigers. Don't really know what we're questioning here. Bo Brisky on the other side, he's delivering similar Titanic home run numbers that we saw for the Blue Jays yesterday in my home run model when I think 3/4 of the lineup hit a home run, except for the guy that I picked, but he had a nice home run total. So talk to me about the Blue Jays lineup. I assume you don't want any Bo Brisky here. And then let's just discuss the Kevin Gausman and the Tigers lineup in the same breath.
Yeah, Gausman just, I think maybe the field has a little bit of game log concern here. His last 3 of his last 4 games have really not been what you want at this price point. But I think, strength of schedule, and hey, it's baseball, stuff happens. It's expected ERA still 3.03. That's pretty pristine, a 27.5% K rate, 16% swing and strike rate. And oh yeah, it's the Tigers, a 68 WRC plus against righties. That's what you want. So this lineup, just Scope and Austin Meadows have a sub 20% K rate against righties since the beginning of last year. So you're going to get 1 in 5 potential. You're going to get a good chance at a decent strikeout day, which also might help you erase some mistakes here. And it just makes too much sense here. And like you said, I think the I'm going to be well over the field here on Gausman. We have him about matching his top 2 percentage on DK, but in comparison to like Zach Wheeler, who is in a better hitter's park, that he's picking up an extra 20% of negative leverage here. So I still think there's a chance to get bullish on Gausman here and walk away happy. Absolutely no Brisky. He might be joining Elvin Rodriguez in tomorrow.
Who they just left out there to get dinged, man.
It's like you're fine. Do you see that video of him tipping pitches against Yankees?
Oh yeah. And people were asking about that in the chat yesterday, and like it is a thing. It was very real that he was doing it, but he's also a bad pitcher. Like people were saying, what if he cured his issue with the tipping pitches? I don't really care. He was still pitching poorly yesterday. So yeah, he's a target. Bo Brisky, just as big a target for me. So I'm loading up on Blue Jays again here.
Yeah, I this is actually stupid to see over half of the team in my model have the magic number for a homer.
Yep, same. And some of the guys like basically doubling it up like we saw yesterday. So, I mean, just ridiculous. And then to support what you were saying on Gausman, the Tigers against righties, 30th ranked ISO, 30th ranked WRC plus, 30th ranked home run rate. There's only 30 teams in the game, you guys. 25th ranked strikeout rate. Nice spot for Gausman at somewhat low ownership. Talk to me about individual hitters in the Blue Jays side of things. And then would you roster any Tigers knowing that they're going against Gausman here?
Man, I guess you could make that D-backs hedge case here for the Tigers, but you would never feel good about it. I'd feel less good about the Tigers than I would against the D-backs. D-backs look like they breathe some life. You just mentioned last place in dang near every metric possible. So if you want to throw a 1 or 2% in the back end of 150, go for it. But it's not something I would do in like 20 or 50. But man, good God, the Blue Jays project so gosh dang well. 15% K rate against righties for Brisky, a 3+ home run per 9. That's dumb. Springer, dinger. Yeah, and was Vladdy the one that owes you?
Vladdy owes me one from yesterday. Yeah, everybody else I feel like got there, and they were all in my lineups. It was great, but Vladdy was my actual pick yesterday. I just went with the guy who was sitting all the way at the top of the board for me by a pretty decent margin. So he's there again today. I think he'll get one. I think I actually went with Teoscar as my my official pick today, though. So I went right back to the well with Blue Jays. So anything else to go ahead.
Yeah, I was gonna say the ownership being at just 12% here for the Blue Jays. I think this is a product of everyone being 5 to 6K in that 1 through 4.
Yeah, they're pricey.
So I guess making some lineups could get kind of tight tonight, especially if you are a Gausman or a Wheeler, or you want to get double aces up there. So I guess maybe we'll try and hunt some value guys to make it happen, because it's gonna be hard to fit in.
Paging Mr. Plesac.
Yeah, right. Oh, yeah. It's gonna be hard to get
5
Blue Jays in the lineup and like your pitchers.
Yeah, for sure. It's a difficult stack to roster for that reason. But for that reason, it might be contrarian to get to the full 5-man if you can. A lot of people might go 3-man just because they're so expensive, and then 5-man it with another less expensive team, get to better pitching. If you've got an angle on some value pitching, it might pay to full stack Blue Jays here again. We talked through the Tigers side of this one. Let me do a quick Odd Shopper read here. Everybody, you guys are familiar with our Odd Shopper site, our sister site, our great site for making your best bets in 30 seconds or less. If you guys have bets in mind for tonight, if you're betting on the Rangers tonight on the money line, which I recommend, Mr. Messier 28 some odd years ago guaranteed a Game 6 victory, I might do the same thing. Maybe not. I'm not on the team. But with hundreds of bets featured daily, Odd Shopper gives you the edge you need to find betting betting player props and game lines across all sports. I still hate how that sentence is written. Sign up for free now via the link in the video description below, down there somewhere, to gain access to our proprietary data, which will help you make your best bets. With expected win percentages and ROIs included, Odds Shopper uses the same DFS projections we use here at Awesemo to filter out the best bets available. Odds Shopper also features a parlay builder with optimized parlays and an arbitrage tool that identifies risk-free guaranteed profit bets. How much more do we need to give you? Risk-free, guaranteed profit. Jump over to OddsShopper, guys. It's linked from the top of Awesemo. There's 2 S's in the middle. Oddshopper.com. Make your better bets today. I just made up that tagline. Wasn't very good. Gun, let's jump over to what's next? Pirates. The Pirates against the Braves. I'm getting a nice projection for Mr. Charlie Morton, but it looks like a lot of the field's going to him here. Talk to me about Morton, and then any love for Zach Thompson on the hill against the extremely powerful Braves.
Yeah, Morton is not quite been the guy he was last year, a 5.05 expected ERA and a 1.5 whip. You want that to not be a high-owned thing if you like him. So that might be one of those opportunities to go against the grain and justify it with those numbers, a 30% ownership versus a 15% top 2 chance of being the top 2 pitcher from the Department of Redundancy department. So that's a lot of negative leverage. And some slates, you're going to take the negative leverage because you believe in the play. Maybe today that's Zach Wheeler. And then some slates, you go the opposite way. Last night, full disclosure, I went the opposite way on Jose Barrios because his numbers were just not that great to me. So I'm going to be probably out on Charlie Morton just because I got to find some ways to zig while the field zags or vice versa. So, but I get it. I understand why you would want to, take a shot on this Pirates lineup that 3 through 6 really give you a 1-5 plus K rate potential. They don't project for a ton of power. They're way below league average in WRC plus, but this is probably just a calculated fade for me in terms of Morton, and no thank you on Mr. Zach Thompson.
Yeah, same for me on the Thompson side of this. I might get around the field's number on Morton on FanDuel. He's projected out 15%, somewhere around there, only cost 7,500. I think I'm comfy being around just at the field's ownership on that one. That's around, how much I like to roster a starting pitcher anyway, in that 15 to 20% range. And I like to spread out to a lot of guys. I've just been picking on this Pirates team so much with good righties. And I think Morton still qualifies for that. 22% strikeout rate, down from 28.6 last year. If I get that 28.6% guy tonight going up against a nothing lineup, I like my chances of getting a nice score. So maybe a little bit more enthusiasm for Morton for me, but I get that yours is just kind of a math. We gotta draw shares from somewhere and get different somewhere. If you're not going to Morton, would you go to any Pirate stacks against Morton, against all that ownership?
Yeah. I think, there's still enough ownership on him at 30% that it makes sense to get to a couple of these guys. And the Braves are projected to put up a lot of runs here. So they might not get some of the quality arms first out the bullpen. So you might get some average to less than average arms pitching against the Pirates halfway through the game. And especially if Morton collapses, Sawinski's showing us some power. Brian Reynolds, a 200 plus ISO against righties since beginning of last year. Vogelback's in the mix. There's some clickable names, man. It's a who's who of who's that, or, hey, I remember him, but there are some names with a little bit of pop here. So I do think the Pirates are justifiable. And I would go Sawinski, Vogelback, and Reynolds as the guys I'm most interested in. And then, keep Brian Hayes and just Tucupita Marcano. I know
Marcano.
Him in the leadoff spot.
Yeah, he was born in Tucupita, according to what I saw a couple weeks ago on the MLB network. Apparently that's a city in Venezuela, I want to say. But a little bit interesting there. But I would go Michael Chavis is if you want to spread it out to a 5-man, maybe Michael Chavis, maybe some Jack Sawinski and Cal Mitchell. Some interesting bats in that lineup. They're not really performing well, but that's why they're so cheap, so unowned. What about the Braves going up against Thompson, this loaded for power Braves lineup?
Yeah, so this they are projected to score 74 runs today. So yeah, they're supposed to put it. And hey, they've been living up to some of these totals lately. Yep. 5.7 if we're being serious here. Much like the Blue Jays here, they are really expensive. 6.4 Acuna, 5.5 for Swanson, 6 on Riley, 5.3 on Olsen. They're gonna cost you some money here. I'm not getting as astronomically high power numbers for them as I did the Blue Jays. I think that's more because Zach Thompson's hard contact rate's a lot lower, his ground ball rate's a bit higher. But I won't push back. I've been seeing the Braves just pop off for about a week now. So I'll absolutely have interest in the Braves here. We got them at 6% owned versus a 10% chance of being a top stack. So there's positive leverage to be had. Again, much like the Blue Jays, I think it's a matter of fitting the puzzle pieces with their prices in, and that's probably suppressing their ownership. But yes, they are. They got a real chance of being the highest scoring team on the slate tonight.
Yeah, it's a lineup that I just like getting to, pretty much top to bottom. We get the William Contreras version instead of Travis d'Arnaud today. You get Adam Duvall. You get Michael Harris kind of sneaky down toward the bottom for pretty cheap. Duvall scuffling, but still ton of power in that bat any given slate. Michael Harris, exciting young rookie. And then it's the frequent top 6 in this lineup that I can go to basically against anybody. Zach Thompson is keeping like you said, the power numbers for me, the home run marks aren't the same as like what we were saying for the Blue Jays, because Thompson 36.7% hard hit, 6.1% barrel. Those are around league average, a little bit better than league average, 3.50% home run rate. So the Braves aren't spiking through the top just specifically for today, but just based on how they've been and what they do against right-handed pitching in general, could see a few home runs come through it for Atlanta here. So I think we've covered that one pretty well. We've got a few more to go here, so we'll keep the pace rolling. The Marlins taking on the Astros. Braxton Garrett on the hill for the Marlins. I'm assuming we're skipping him. I know I am. Framber, interesting pitcher on the mound for the Astros. Talk to me about Framber Valdez here. And then if you have anything to say about Braxton Garrett, go ahead.
Framber, he's been more of a FanDuel play for me all year, just because he doesn't strike people out, but he will give you a real shot at going deep in the game. Big ground ball guy, and we've seen that kind of play out in a positive way this season. 2 games ago, a CG against the Oakland Athletics, and a lot of 7-inning appearances here. So I think that makes a lot of sense for FanDuel. On DK, still playable, absolutely at 8,900. Look for 20 plus 25, and to give you a little bit of salary reprieve here, but he does have a little less correction opportunity if he does give up some runs. But this Marlins lineup just might feed him some strikeouts if the right version comes out. I don't know if they're going to have the lid open in Minute Maid at 100-degree weather, but if they do, that makes me even less likely to accidentally click Braxton Garrett. I'm with you there. We don't have a confirmed Marlins lineup yet, but the projected one I got, it's going to give us a real chance at strikeout potential. And then on the season, we're looking at almost a 30% K rate. So even though Valdez isn't, necessarily a K guy, if he averages about 20% on the season, maybe he gets an extra 1 or 2 just based on this lineup. So I'm in on Valdez.
And that's something that we've seen from Framber in a few starts here and there from time to time. When he picks up that strikeout bonus, additional strikeouts, he really rockets to the top of the scoreboard, because he's typically pitching like 7 innings in a game. Like you said, he's typically getting you that quality start on FanDuel. And you're right. The Marlins, for all their productivity and all their quality against righties this year, against lefties, they're as bad as the Tigers are against everybody. 28th ranked 101 team ISO against lefties. Like you said, a 30th ranked 29% strikeout rate, and creating runs 26% below average, 30th ranked. So not a lot of threat for Framber, who's always keeping the ball on the ground, not giving home runs up anyway. Find a few additional strikeouts. I really like that spot. Are you concerned at all about any ownership? He's pulling like 30% on DK, only 9% on FanDuel though.
A little bit, man. Like I said, some spots you got to look at the negative leverage and agree or disagree. So while he has just about the same negative leverage as Charlie Morton, well, the advanced metrics for Valdez are a little bit more encouraging. A 3.07 expected ERA versus Morton being over 5. Solid. I'll take that negative leverage just because I believe in the play a little bit more. But yeah, I guess mathematically it's a little bit overowned, but I can offset it here by fading some of these other guys that I disagree with. By the way, the Marlins lineup did come out. It was as projected. So yeah, this is hey, no Jazz Chisholm. So that's like, even though it's lefty, that's like their guy, right? So
yeah, that knocks them down a big spot. I don't care who the pitcher is at that point. That's definitely going to be a big ding for their lineup.
Yeah.
All right. So let's see. We got the Marlins in there. I was just dropping that lineup in. Looks like we got the Dodgers lineup as well. What about individual hitters from the Astros going up against Braxton Garrett? Who we're looking at? It looks like they're not drawing that much popularity for as good as they are against this pitcher.
Yeah. Again, I mean, they're expensive, but it's not as bad. Altuve 5.7, Bregman 5.1, or Alvarez 6.3. I definitely think if I put Astros, Braves, Blue Jays on the table, I'm going Blue Jays 1 without thinking about ownership. But because of that, I think the field is kind of doing the same here. 11% ownership. I'd probably just be right there with the field on that. And if I move it to 15, I'm happy with it. Braxton is doesn't have a ton of big league sample. We just know that he's going to let a lot of people on. He sustained almost a 1.8 whip in his the course of the 3 seasons, which is like less than 50 innings. And if you're going to let these Astros on base, that means you're going to get through Braxton Garrett pretty quickly. And this is a really talented team where everyone's got a 800, 900 OPS, and Alvarez, Bregman, Brandt, Altuve, all those guys are just really dangerous to mess with here. So I'm in on that. And then Astros give you a couple of guys that are a little bit cheaper to scale on FanDuel than DK. So maybe on FanDuel you can get to a little bit more and not break the bank.
Yeah, Pena only 2,800 over there, 2,600 for Yuli Gurriel, who's only 2,900 and struggling on the DK slate, but still hitting the middle of the lineup. And Brantley 2,900 on the FanDuel slate. Brantley's the one guy out of their lefties who does tend to scuffle a little bit more against same-handed pitching, but I'm not really worried about it against this pitcher, against Braxton Garrett here. And then I feel like the field kind of leaves Jordan Alvarez and Kyle Tucker on the table a little bit too much lefty-lefty. Neither one of those guys loses like anything lefty. Jordan Alvarez is like the best hitter in baseball. So I'm happy to get those guys at pretty low ownership in this one. Do you see that the same way? Do you worry at all about lefty with Alvarez and Tucker?
No, not at all.
Yeah. I think that's a spot that the field just kind of overthinks the
matter
sometimes.
Let's say matter of fact, those are the 2 highest bomb ratings I got.
Yeah, looks like the same for me. Alvarez over at 10 and Tucker sitting in at 8.34. Nobody else over an 8. So yeah, I'm with you. The exact same thing. What about on the Marlins side of things without any Jazz Chisholm in that lineup? Are you grabbing any shares of like Avi Garcia against the lefty, Jorge Soler against the lefty? For me, it's just Framber keeps the ball on the ground too much. Move on.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, the ball leaves back, goes straight into the ground, 68, 70% ground ball rate to righties, and they're throwing out all righties. So, and ironically, that's might be a net positive for Framber Valdez because his xFIP to lefty sits almost at 4 with a 13% walk rate. No lefties in the lineup to worry about. So we're gonna get a high ground ball rate, a sub 10% walk rate. That's good. So yeah, this is actually they're playing into his positives. It looks like.
Yeah, solid little spot for Framber here. I like that a lot. Let's take a look. We'll move on to the next one on deck. Game 1 of the Rockies Padres. I've got the wrong pitchers in here. It looks like I think I've got tonight's pitchers listed, but who cares? Let's talk about game 1 with Ryan Feltner and Nick Martinez on the mound. Are you going to either one of these pitchers?
Negative.
Same. Talk to me about the bats. You going to any Rockies bats? You going to any Padres bats?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, the numbers it's hard to look at Nick Martinez numbers and not want to at least get there. Not that I believe in the Rockies that much, but you just got to pick on bad pitching when it's there. 4.42 xFIP to righties, a 273 average allowed, and a home run per 9 above 1. That's good for CJ Cron. I have as somewhat of an interest in Blackman and Connor Joe. Like I said, this is just some get me over there stack to fill out a script here. It's not a high confidence thing. I'm just trying to pick on a bad pitcher.
Yeah, you're going up against a pitcher that's at least targetable with a lot of these right-handed bats, like a CJ Cron, a Brendan Rodgers I can grab. Even Ryan McMahon, lefty. I'm not really that, or excuse me, it's not even the lefty. It's going up against Nick Martinez. So yeah, Ryan McMahon, a decent lefty power back going up against the righty. Sammy Hilliard, a little bit sneaky for power and late in the lineup. Hasn't really shown the home run upside, only 2 on the season, but a 48.1% hard hit and an 11.7% barrel for Sam Hilliard. So a little bit sneaky down toward the bottom of the lineup if you're going there. What about on the Pods side of things? Not a team I love getting to outside of Manny Machado, and it looks like they're pulling a ton of ownership here going up against Ryan Feltner.
Yeah, much like Martinez, Feltner has to project well. I'm not a scientist. I don't know how that crap works, but it is a day game, and the marine layer stuff I don't think is in effect yet. So we might get a little bit more positive hitting environment for these guys here. So I do want to be there, but I don't want to be there if they're going to be too busy. 13% ownership, yeah, a little bit of negative leverage on DK, but Machado, Cronenworth is starting to turn it around. The rest of this lineup is very uninspiring, and so I think much like the Rockies, I'm getting there just trying to pick on a weaker pitcher and maybe a better than perception hitting environment, but it's not a confident click. It's just to fill out 150.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. I wouldn't go out of my way to chase them. I wouldn't delete, as long as it's only a handful lineups. If I see them getting a little bit aggressive, I think I probably would go in and, maybe trim around the edges if I'm getting too much of them. But there's at least some playable bats in there. This one's just kind of an unexciting game for me in the game one. Maybe it'll get a little bit more interesting for DraftKings when we talk about it again in a few minutes. Let's move on to the games that are on the FanDuel slate. 2 games in the 7:00 hour on the FanDuel main slate. I forget, whatever. Dodgers against the Giants. Clayton Kershaw going up against Sammy Long. Are you going to any Clayton Kershaw against a pretty good Giants lineup here that's been very good against lefties, and Clay Kershaw just coming back from injury?
Man, let's see. I'm gonna pull up, see what he threw in his last rehab start. Kershaw, to his credit, was really doggone good before he went down.
Sure was.
Looks like in his last rehab start on June 5th, he went 4 innings, 7 Ks, 1 homer, 3 hits. So 4 innings. I can't guess the pitch count there, but at least it would suggest he's not fully stretched out. And even before he went down, they were really careful with his pitch count.
Yeah, they're managing him.
Perfect game, Yankees stuff going on. So I guess it's fair to probably be pessimistic on his leash here. And with that in mind, with FanDuel in mind at 10K, if you can't get 6 innings out of a guy, you're kind of leaving that quality start on the table. It's already a tough matchup. So I think it's easy to kind of go the other way on some of these other options here, like those Wheelers, Gossmans, guys like that. So I think that's ultimately the decision I would make. It if you're a little bit more risk diverse or tolerance is higher than mine probably, but I think the right move at this price is probably sit this one out.
Yeah, it's a bit of a tough ask, and I figured it out. This game is on the main slate for DK, not the early slate. That was the difference. It remains on the full main slate for FanDuel. So on FanDuel, he's only drawing 0.9% ownership. At 10-2, I'll probably take a few shots because I'm stupid and I do have a pretty broad risk tolerance. 18% I think is outrageous. I think people are getting a little carried away, even on that shorter 5-game DK slate at 10,000. That's a tough ask here against the Giants. That's a lot of ownership for me. So I think I might be playing it just differently site to site. Then it looks like we've got Sammy Long on the hill for the Giants going up against the Dodgers here. Any love for Sammy Long?
No, 16% K rate this year. Sierra knocking on door of 5. His results have been a little bit more friendly to him. I think it's the Dodgers. I just don't think I need a tempt fate here.
Yeah, not going to be long for this game to put a bad pun on it. Let's talk about the Dodgers lineup going up against him then. As we usually see with this team, ton of ownership up top, not that much in the bottom half. I'm always happy to grab the bottom half of this lineup and run with it, or just mix and match bottom half hitters with top half hitters. What are you doing with the Dodgers here?
Yeah, I think this is like the San Diego situation. This is
is Max Muncy a $2,000 shortstop on DK today?
No, I think that's the kid Oakland drafted. This happened to me the other day.
There's another Max Muncy?
Drafted by Oakland too. He drafted.
I did not realize that. That's one that snuck by me this season.
It was kind of funny. Oakland drafted this Max Muncy, so this is the second time they drafted a Max Muncy. But yeah, that happened to me too the other day with Julio Rodriguez. There's a catcher for the Cardinals named Julio Rodriguez, and it was breaking my spreadsheet.
That's why the outfielder's got the Y in his name, I guess. Julio Y Rodriguez in one of the outputs. So, all right, that makes sense. I didn't know about the other Julio, but all right.
Yeah.
Wow, I had no idea there was another Max Muncy. All right, cool. So good. That makes sense. If you read in my article that he was a shortstop today, that was wrong. But I fortunately didn't notice the price at the time, so at least I didn't screw that part up too. So all right, continue talking about this Dodgers lineup. Sorry.
Yeah, it's the freaking Dodgers, and then this is one of those. If you live on the East Coast, this is kind of like I forgot it's a daytime game over there, right? So much like San Diego, you might get a little bit boost for the hitting. In the sunlight here. So good little spot for the Dodgers. It's the Dodgers. They're always going to garner some ownership, but on FanDuel, they're affordable. You can get there and not have to kind of break the bank too much versus some of the other stacks. So I'm in on the Dodgers. I'll probably be linear with the field.
Yep. So it's Max Muncy, not the shortstop, and Will Smith, not the pitcher in the middle of that lineup. I can get to both of those guys. And then, yeah, just low owned Justin Turner, Cody Bellinger, Chris Taylor, Gavin Lux from the bottom to fill out around Mookie Freddie. I'm happy to get to those guys. Trey Turner, really, really popular, but really, really good. What about the Giants going up against Kershaw? As good as they've been, I don't know, 4 or 5 innings of Kershaw. I don't know that I necessarily want to tangle with that with full stacks. Are you rostering any Giants against him here?
Man, I the Giants against lefties the last 2 years kind of been like my Cinderella stack. Now that involved Donovan Solano.
Bushwood.
But you can give me Slater, Flores, Darren Ruff, and Longo against the lefty, and I'll take my chances at low ownership. And then I mentioned that Kershaw, our boy Mike, he said that was a single A game, so he did give up a homer against some single A kids. So maybe those guys get into one on a not fully healed up Kershaw, and then maybe they get into the bullpen and get lucky here. But it's more of a I don't know, a nostalgic thing, because Ruff, Longo, Flores, and Slater, if they are in the lineup in the projected position, I'll take those bets against the lefty and see what happens.
Yeah, I think there's enough track record there with their quality against lefties in general. Some of those, platoon specialist type guys in that lineup, you can definitely get to, like a Wilmer against a lefty, even in addition to the guys that you were just mentioning there. I'm still happy to take some shots with Wilmer. So I think we can get there. They're very, very low owned. So it is an interesting hedge position, if nothing else. We're 9 minutes and 3 games to go, or 4 if we're talking about the Rockies and Pods again. So we'll pick up a little time. Last game on the FanDuel slate, Cubbies against the Yankees, game I may or may not go to later on. Matt Swarmer on the hill for the Cubbies, Jordan Montgomery answering back for our Yankees, drawing not much ownership at all on FanDuel, but a significant amount on the shorter DK slate at 7,600. What are you doing with Montgomery? And then any reason to roster Matt Swarmer against the Yanks here?
Man, unfortunately, there might be a little bit of reason on that smaller slate. Okay. Swarmer, he does have a sub 0.9 whip, a 2.47 expected ERA, a 24% K rate. We've seen some, weird pitchers come out with decent games against the Yankees. Took them 14 innings to score 1 run yesterday. We saw Chris Archer live the other day. So I just think I'm willing to concede that there's a range of outcome that this kid could survive 5 or 6 and give you a product, a well-produced score. Now, I don't even know what I'm saying. Give you enough points on a small slate.
This is how much confidence he has in this region.
No, there's some strikeout potential there. With that said, obviously we're going to be at the Yankees for sure. But I don't think it's crazy to click Swarmer. I think I've seen crazier things. Swarmer's 2 games so far. I think he's given us 5 innings in both outings. No, 6 innings in both outings. Less than a K per inning overall, but keeping the ball on the ground a decent amount. It wouldn't stun me if you gave me 15 to 20 today, just because we've seen weird pitchers do that against the Yankees. But that's not to say we're not going to be really aggressive on the Yankees on that slate, and hopefully they don't wait until 2 a.m. to score some runs. Aaron Judge in the leadoff spot.
Leadoff Judge. Gotta love that. Josh Donaldson hitting 2, Anthony Rizzo, Giancarlo Stanton, Gleyber Torres. That's a modern day murderer's row. Happy to get to it any day. Looks like there's enough of offsets of popularity throughout the lineup that you can stack Yanks pretty enthusiastically. Joey Gallo lurking toward the bottom of the lineup, drawing a little bit of popularity, but I wouldn't sleep on him either, particularly if you get that Gallo-Judge combo where Gallo's wrapping around a Judge. Just because of Gallo's on-base acumen over time, this year 287 on base, that's not Joey Gallo, but he is still a guy who can get on base, get ahead of Judge and Donaldson. So I wouldn't leave him out of stacks. What about Montgomery? Are you rostering Jordan Montgomery, and then what are you doing with the Cubbies on the other side of that equation?
On the short slate, yeah. On the big slate, I'm a little bit more trepidatious. I do like righties more so against these Cubs. They actually have a plus WRC plus against lefties. I did not know that. But there's still some K rates, some guys to strike out: Wisdom, Contreras, Morel, and Ian Happ, but those are literally the 4 guys I'm most scared of. So while they do offer the highest K potential, those are the guys I'm worried about getting to them. So I think 8,500 of FanDuel. I don't have to do it on the main slate, but on the shorter slate for DK, where I think the ceiling for the top pitchers is a little bit lower than the main slate. I think it makes sense for one of the middle price guys like Jordan Montgomery, who likely gets you 6 innings, even if it's not a K per inning start. I think 15 to 20 just might be enough on this slate. And actually, the Cubs lineup just dropped, so
anything wacky?
Yan Gomes is in it. Andrelton Simmons is in it. Jason Hayward's in it. Whew, it looks a lot better for Jordan Montgomery than it did a minute ago, but 1 through 5, I'll still give it respect.
They're rostering like the 2009 all prospect list there. That's interesting. Let's move on from this one. We're running short on time. We've got the DK slate now. The Mets against the Angels. Carlos Carrasco was top of the board for the Mets on that DK slate. If you're playing the FanDuel late slate, I believe he'd probably be top of the board there. A lot of strikeout opportunity going up against the Angels. Michael Lorenzen on the hill for the Angels taking on the Mets. Are you interested in either one of these pitchers on the DK slate?
I have a little bit of interest in Carrasco. This Angels lineup is really, really beat up. I guess Rendon and Trout. Rendon did come back, and Trout's kind of iffy. If those guys are in the lineup with Ohtani, it's definitely a little tougher to get through. However, the strikeouts are still there, a 25% overall K rate against righties. So I just think there is a range of outcomes that Carrasco can give a 6 or 7 with a K per inning. And then I like the Mets to get a win over Lorenzen and his 14% K rate to lefties. There's a lot of lefties on that Mets team. So I'll have some Carrasco interest, not really that interested in Lorenzen.
Makes sense. What about on the Mets bat side of things then, since we're not going to Lorenzen really all that much? I think we both have a healthy respect for this Mets lineup. So for me, Nimmo, Lindor, Alonso back in the lineup, Eduardo Escobar, Marcana, all interesting. Luis Guillorme is having an interesting little season at the plate. Even a JD Davis, maybe, so a lineup that plays 1 through 8, 1 through 9. Are you going to the Mets stacks here? Are you going to full stacks or just grabbing individuals?
I think a full stack here. Back it up, Lorenzen is still a bullpen that allows amongst the most homers out of any bullpen. So could be a quality 9 innings. And again, theme of the slate, LA secret day games, a lot hotter out there. And I think it's just a good environment for the Mets here if the lineup comes out the way it is projected, and 1 through 5 of the projected lineup. And Nimmo, like you said, him, Alonso, Lindor, probably the 3 most intriguing guys to me. But I guess Eduardo Escobar, if you haven't been paying attention, is kind of doing things lately.
Yeah, and he's a good bat. He scuffled coming out of the gate this season, but last year, 28 home runs at 219 ISO and 599 plate appearances for the switch hitter. So that's a bat I've been going to all year long, and nice to see him finally coming around a little bit and hitting the ball. On the other side, I don't think we have the Angels confirmed lineup yet. Not sure on Mike Trout. Looks like Anthony Rendon probably back in the lineup. I think he came back last night. Jared Walsh, Joe Adell. Are you going to any Angels with all those strikeouts and, you're kind of homer hunting when you go there? Any love for the Angels lineup here?
Yeah, if we're looking at a Trout, Ohtani, Rendon, Walsh, 1 through 4, or if that's even a lane, I think that's just a really talented group of guys to get to.
Sure.
So yeah, it's looking a lot more like the team that was on that run earlier in the season than team from the last week. So yeah, I think it's fair to get to them.
Yeah, that makes some sense. And I assume it would basically be those hitters that we just threw into the mix there. If anybody else has any strong opinions about the Tyler Wades, Andrew Velasquez of the world, you're welcome to them. Let's jump to the Red Sox versus Mariners game. Before we do that, guys, we're brought to you by Awesemo Best Bets. You've heard us talk about it a lot. It's Alex, it's Ben, it's Steve providing the best bets of the day in an exclusive channel on our Discord and on the website in the picks page that you can access. Click the link down there to subscribe. It's NBA, MLB, all the different sports, any bets that guys see. We've also got them for free if you follow at Awesemo Best Bets on Twitter. They go out for one for free every single day. A little teaser for everybody, but you can you can follow those and make a lot of money as well. So make sure you're checking that out. Last game on deck: Red Sox versus the Mariners. Michael Wacha on the hill for the Red Sox. George Kirby going for the Mariners. We will swing back around to that other second game of the Rockies Pods doubleheader real quick too. But let's talk about Wacha. Let's talk about Kirby. I really like Kirby. Drawing a lot of ownership. What do you think of Kirby? I don't like Wacha that much. Not drawing that much ownership. What do you think of Wacha?
Yeah, I'm with you on Kirby. I believe in him as a strikeout guy. 10.5% swing and strike rate. Could be better, could be worse. Throw strikes though. He's not gonna waste a lot of pitches. Mm-hmm. Where I do worry about him so far is his numbers against righties are pretty not great. 18% K rate to righties with a 4.5 xFIP, a 2.7 home run per 9, and 321 average. Obviously, we know from his minor league stuff that he's probably gonna improve upon those numbers going forward. His best split has been against lefties. It's not going to sustain long term. Maybe not. But there is a growing pain. We're seeing it with Kyle Bradish. He's going to have to evolve. With that said, The Red Sox have some scary righties. JD Martinez, Xander Bogaerts, the two guys that I would be most worried about to take advantage of those numbers here. But I'm with you. I think that it makes a lot of sense to get to him for strikeout rates. And also, I'm with you on Michael Wacha. Wacha was, he took advantage of that Angels lineup that I was alluding to earlier.
Yep.
And how
that strikeout over that day.
nuts. CG'd them. Think that was one of the luckiest ranges of outcomes you'll get for Wacha. He still had less than a K per inning. It was a lot of defense involved in that. A 3.8 expected ERA isn't the worst for a guy like Wacha. A 4.5 Sierra, not what you want, but all that is drastically different than his sub 2 ERA. And I think if that's going to overproject and get too many clicks here, I think I'm going to sit that one out because the Mariners are still a plus team, 114 WRC plus against righties. And if you're not going to be a strikeout pitcher, right, you got to earn your outs here. I think this is a scrappy team to try and get through. So I'm definitely not that interested in Wacha.
Yeah, I like that frisky little Mariners team, so I can definitely get there. Let's talk bats real quick. For me, if I'm going to Mariners, Jesse Winker off the top, still very cheap if you're playing the I have a FanDuel price. I guess it's from the evening slate. 3,900 though, still discounted on DK as well for his early struggles. Ty France, Julio Rodriguez, JP Crawford, Eugenio Suarez. Outside of the top 5, do you go to the bottom half, the Adam Frazier's, Abraham Toros, Taylor Trammell's of the world with this lineup, or are you kind of exclusively plucking stacks and individuals from the top 5?
Trammell is interesting because he does have
Agreed.
a 40. He has a 246 ISO to righties since the beginning of last year, but it's neutralized by a 40% K rate, and Wacha has an 18% K rate to righties. So there's math in there that would suggest we might be able to get a sneaky Trammell power hit here. So that's probably the guy I'd be eyeing at the bottom of the lineup.
Yeah, I like that call a lot. And Abraham Toro just still, at least in my mind, kind of frisky. 6 home runs this year, but only slashing 173, 225, 340, not creating runs very well. Taylor Trammell definitely has been better over his 45 plate appearances. On the Bo Sox side of things, if we get Christian Arroyo up at the top again for 2,100 and 3 position eligibility on FanDuel, if you're playing over there, that's great. He's only an outfielder on DK at 2,800 value play, but I don't love him only as an outfielder. He leads into Devers, Martinez, Bogarts, Verdugo, Story, obviously a killer part of the lineup. Are you going to Red Sox, and then is it just that meaty part of the lineup, or are you willing to spread out on the Red Sox?
Yeah, like I said, we take a chance that Kirby's splits against righties aren't solved yet. And then Rafael Devers, he's just pretty good at this baseball thing. So not going to leave him out. Verdugo too. So yeah, we got to get to some Red Sox. Run total is it's rare you see Red Sox as a dog here. But yeah, the 3.9 run total. Yeah. Unless they have some secret lineup that we don't know about.
That would be annoying, but also speaks to the quality of George Kirby. He's just been good this year. So, I think there's a little bit of that in there, but we saw Rob Refsnyder lead off for this team last night, which was a little surprise. I pivoted to directly for my Arroyo shares that were in the infield. I pivoted directly to him. Don't even know how it worked out. Honestly, I didn't see the outcome of that one because I wasn't overly involved at the top of the standings last night. Let's move on from this one. We do have that last game of the doubleheader to swing back through for the folks who were playing on the DK slate. So let me pull that up here since I had the correct pitchers in it on this one. So that game's got Kyle Freeland taking on Mackenzie Gore, pair of lefties, Padres Rockies. Do you like either pitcher there? They're both drawing a decent amount of ownership on the DK slate. Gore, obviously much more expensive.
Yeah, just talent-wise, Mackenzie Gore makes a lot of sense. Who's the pitcher for the Rockies?
Kyle Freeland.
Freeland? Okay, yeah.
Drawing like 23% owned at 7,000.
Yeah, that's probably it's a little uncomfortable for me because his we're chasing K rates here. 16% K rate overall for Freeland this season, of 4.86 expected ERA. That I would not want at high ownership. But Mackenzie Gore at least gives me, like I said, believe in the pitcher if I'm going to take negative leverage. A 30% K rate for Gore makes a lot of sense, and maybe this game is going to be later in the night, so maybe fatigue, maybe layered to be a little bit more positive for the pitcher here. So give me Gore, but I could sit out Freeland.
Yeah, same here. I think Freeland's drawing a little bit too much ownership on DK. If I was going there, it would still be under the 23% at 7,000. You do get value there, and there's not that many options on that slate, but just not the pitcher for me, even against this Padres lineup. I agree on the Gore take there. That's a spot you can load up on. And yeah, hopefully you get the weird, second game of a doubleheader kind of lineups. Maybe people don't go to it as much just because of that circumstance if lineups aren't confirmed around the 7 o'clock lock. What about hitters from, let's assume we get, like, say they were the exact same lineups. Let's just talk about the hitters that are in there. And then if you've got any calls that you expect to be in the later lineups and not the early lineups, throw them
in. No, I would assume. I mean, yeah, you always get those weird, like, obviously the catchers are not going to be the same, more likely. But that's not really going to change much. What
Brian Serven started for the Rockies in the first game, I think, and Jorge Alfaro in the first game for the Pods. So they'll probably switch out.
Maybe Elias Diaz or something like that. Check it. I don't know. But no, I think the talent still kind of rises up. If I wanted to pick on Gore, and I don't, but it would be like guys like CJ Cron, Blackman, Joe. And then on the Padres, it's almost always Manny Machado. In this case, I'd be a little bit more open to stretching out, especially to the lefties. Kyle Freeland, little sneaky reverse splits, I guess, to lefties. A 184 home run per nine so far allowed, 300 plus average with a 27% line drive rate. So maybe Cronenworth continues this little resurrection of his season, and you could put Cronenworth, Machado, and maybe in your favorite ex-Yankee Luke Voit in the mix if he's batting behind him.
Everybody knows about my Luke Voit hate at this point. Dude's got he's up to 5 homers, 3% below average grade. He runs this season, 141 ISO for everybody's favorite power hitter. Yeah, that's not a spot for me, but I think we covered that one pretty much top to bottom. We went a couple of minutes over. FanDuel slate is locked at this point, so hopefully everybody got their lineups in there. I was going to plug our upcoming MMA show, but our pal Jason Floyd in the chat rooting for the Tampa Bay Lightning. I can't have that. So I don't know, Jace, we might have to meet in the hallway like the Rangers fan and the Tampa Bay fan at the Garden the other day. Although you're hosting the MMA show later on, so maybe that won't go well for me. MMA Live Before Lock coming up in a little bit. We've got that one. It's Jason. It's Pete the Heat. That's 5:30 to 6:30 tonight. Then tomorrow, stick around. We've got don't stick around until tomorrow, but come back tomorrow. MLB Live Before Lock at 12:15 for the early afternoon slate. Then NASCAR Live Before Lock 3 to 4 o'clock in the afternoon for the car race. Gun, anything else to close it out? Tell the people where to find you.
Twitter.com, YouTube.com/Gundacker.
There it is, folks. We appreciate you guys hanging out. Hit the like, hit the subscribe, catch all the other shows. We'll see you around.